welcome to the Economic Times Cutting Chai Stories, an initiative by ETH. I'm Ashwani Mishra, bringing to you conversations with business and IT leaders over a cup of chai as they share some interesting insights around their personal and professional journey over the years, their leadership traits, hobbies, and other such engaging topics. Joining me today is a very special guest. I welcome Lakshmi Mukkavilli, Managing Director at Patra India BPO Services. Welcome, Lakshmi, on Cutting Chai Stories.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to host you, Lakshmi. Let's start by going back in time. Could you walk us through your childhood days, your schooling, and lessons that you've learned early on, which have stayed with you till date?
Definitely. I'm born to my lovely parents, Mr. Murthy and Nirmala, and I have three more siblings. I'm the oldest of the siblings. I have two sisters, and the youngest is my brother. Everyone's very well settled. And we had a wonderful, childhood. It was, very secure and taken care of. And also my father was a believer of taking people, children, and exploring. So it was not that you always just sit at home and study. We did our bit, and we did fairly well, but both my sisters, in between my brother and me, they did extremely well, thanks to them. So we used to get some good vacations. So when we were young itself,
Right.
we had gone north, east, west and south. So basically, not that we went all the places, but we did go to Delhi, and we did go to Kolkata, and we did go to Mumbai, and then Bangalore. So at a very early age, and I remember this one incident, if I may. I was actually, I think, in my sixth or seventh grade. So the siblings are much younger, and we used to live in a colony called Coromandel Fertilizers Colony, where my father was working. So my father
Right.
had decided for us to take us for a trip. So we had gone to Tirupati, and from Tirupati to Chennai, we were going to take a flight. This was what, way back in 70s. Yeah, 70s,
Okay.
right? So
Right.
more towards I think early 70s. I don't remember exactly. So it was such a big talk in the colony, because going in a flight at that time, and the whole family, they were like, so how much money this man is spending to take his whole family. It's a very small flight, I understand, but it was so thrilling. And you won't believe how people actually wanted to know everything about the flight. It was such a short one. We hardly went up and came down. How far is Tirupati from Chennai, right? So but it was amazing. So I just want to tell you, we had such a wonderful childhood that way. And but one thing is, discipline was very important in the house. My father was a very disciplined man. He
Right.
worked in the army, not as any major, but he was in the construction site. So, and that capacity as a civil engineer, he had gone. So I think he picked up the discipline from there, or maybe he was disciplined also as a child, but it was really discipline in our house. So when you have to study, you study, getting up early in the morning, especially in exams, and getting good grades, and sleeping in time, and doing all things pretty much according to his way. So which one way sort of helped us later in life, because discipline always helps. So we had some challenges and issues, but generally I think uh, early on, in disciplined way, he was sort of like a mentor to us. And but when it came to studies, it was my mother. She was amazing. She also studied till degree. In fact, she did BSc honors, which was, I think, later removed. I mean, you don't really have much of honors. So she, for her generation at that time, that was amazing that she studied there. The only drawback was she never got to work, because as soon as she finished, she got married, and my father had moved on to north, and and then the kids came one after the other, so she couldn't really work. But she made up that, by spending time with our studies. And I think that's why we all did pretty good, and in our schooling. So I think, so basically, they were big influencers at a very early age,
At the age.
about disciplines, and studies was very important for you to be successful later. I know it's a little different right now the way people say, but at that time it was, studies were a very, very big important thing. Coming to schooling, yes, we had gone to the three sisters. We had gone to this St. Joseph Girls High School, which was a convent run by nuns, from Ireland and Britain. So they're very strict. We had all Anglo-Indian, most of them are Anglo-Indian teachers, especially the lower classes. So we used to get beaten on the knuckles if we didn't speak English.
My
I
goodness.
mean, that's the way it was in those days, in the, I mean, 70s, that's the way it was. So they were very strict, about it. And so we had to, so actually, that's what I'm saying. Thanks to us, thanks to them, that we could really pick up, some good English at an early age.
Age.
So yes, we went, I mean, we had our, most of them, it was good times in school, it was fun. We had to study, we studied, and then we had a fun, games, and, we used to have this big, sports day. So we all participated, and, that way my parents really enjoyed, I mean, because every time they used to come to sports day, and they used to wait, when we were young, when we were going to come into the higher classes, so that, they used to see they used to call them the leaders, we used to have houses, blue, red, yellow,
Right.
and green houses. And, when their kids would be leading the houses, and, stuff like that. So it was good. Actually, I mean, among three of us, only the one after me was the Blue Horse captain. So it was nice for them to see all that. So it was very good. My brother went to a school called Timpani, which was a co-ed school, but my father believed in girls going to girls' school. But we had a fun. Actually, you know what? Sometimes I don't think sometimes you have so much fun if it's a co-ed than when it's a girls, because you could do what you want, you could talk what you want. It's easier, right?
Very
So schooling went by, we had a good time, and then, I went on to intermediate, it was called, that is the 11th and 12th. After the 10th grade, I did my ICSE,
And
and
that
then
was
I
the
went,
co-ed, Lakshmi, I believe.
excuse me?
That was a co-ed.
No, not the intermediate. It was
Ach-
after that. The intermediate was just attached St. Joseph, college it was called. And so I did my 11th and 12th, which is the intermediate there. And now there comes an issue. My parents, I was the oldest child. They were actually sort of thinking, let her do some degree, we'll get her married. But then, what happened in my first inter, when we had the exam, I did extremely well in my physics. I got full marks for my physics, and I did very well in English. So the physics master was actually trying to train people. He was trying to start the first batch for getting into medicine and
Okay.
engineering. He was doing side by side. So he
Right.
came and pressurized my parents, saying, "No, no, she's so smart and bright. Just give her one this thing chance." And so somehow pushed. Actually, tell you the truth, I was not interested, because I was more interested in friends, and But whatever, I was pulled into it, and I did it. And God forbid, I think it was not for me, but I didn't get through. I lost it by 2 marks. And he again came and really asked my parents, I'm guaranteeing next year. My parents said no. You said one chance, we gave her one chance. Sorry, she lost by 2 marks, but it's gone. So then I went and joined, it's called LB Bulle College, which is under the Andhra University.
Right.
And that was my fun period. The 3 years Bachelor of Commerce, I had so much fun. And it was a co-ed, so it was like sudden freedom for us, coming from girls' school, and 11th and 12th. I mean, we had a lot of fun. I mean, yes, but I did my studies. I still got, we had always, the first grade, second grade. I mean, the classes or whatever it is. So I had over 70%, which was good at that time. I mean, now I know people only look at 90%, but and those days. So I did my studies well, but I had my fun. I mean, we had our, outings, and without telling parents, going for a movie, and things like that. But we had a good time. And I mean, I'm surprised, but I think I was slightly popular, not very popular, but I was named as Miss Final Year also when we came on final year. And
Okay.
it was good, had a very good time. And so that's what it is. And actually, in fact, when I was in final year, we were going, I mean, I wanted to really get good marks, so I was going for coaching. I think I don't remember, I think it was accounts or statistics or something like that. And so that master, somehow he took a little bit of liking to me, because I was a little fast. And then he asked some questions, and I used to answer them very fast. He's saying, "My God, you're so smart, you should be in IAS, you should go to IAS. If you want, I'll talk to my parents and all." I said, "No, please." Medicine was one thing they pushed me. I didn't want it really that much. But IAS, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think my parents will agree, but well, whatever. I finished my this thing, and then I graduated. And then I mean, I joined my father, because they were not very keen on me going for a job outside. So my father had a firm called Visakha Constructions. He was into construction. He was basically a
Okay.
civil
Right.
engineer, and he
Right.
used to build, apartments. So he said, I mean, join. So I joined there, and and then I had some health issues for a couple few years, so I mean, so time went by since it was, just a firm, I used to help him out, I mean, whenever could and all that. So I worked like that. And then after, I think, few years, I joined CA, Chartered Accountancy, because,
You get
yeah,
it. So
yeah,
from
yeah. So they want, I mean, I mean, they wanted me to, like, do something so that, like, I mean, I come back, to more normal. And so I joined there. And, I mean, but, it was like tough. I mean, CA in those times, I mean, in 80s was very, I mean, very tough. There were like only 2% of passage, especially for intermediate. I struggled, I didn't get through my first attempt, but then I got through my second attempt. Everything was nice. And then, I mean, we used to go, I had a lot of fun going for audits. We go out, right? We go. So there was
yes,
this one audit, we had gone to Hotel Daspala, and how we used to go there and happily have lunch, all free, because we were trying to audit there. So, so we had I mean, I had a good time, picked up, practical work, and then, passed my intermediate. And then, this thing, I got married. And then I finally, I mean, it took me some time because he was in the US, to sponsor me. So I finished my final year also, the part one, and then I went there.
right. So I believe you worked in the US for around 7 years, and
Yeah, about seven and a half to 8 years, so, well, my marriage didn't really work out. And, I had a baby, so I sort of a single parent, and I started work there. I initially started with a company called Softline, which was into sort of financial services. I worked for about, I think, 2.5 to 3 years there. That was really my sort of first job after, in India, which I just worked with my father. And then, of course, the experience I had in CA. So I worked there, and it taught me a lot of stuff, which was really good. I mean, because it was so different, everything, the way you dress, and it's for financial services, so they were very big into formal dressing, and the way you talk. I mean, I learned a lot, email etiquette, how you communicate. I mean, thanks to actually that company, that was the first company which I picked up a lot. And then after that, I got a break, and I got into another. It was a tech company doing, doing payments platform. It was called Cyberbills, and I think eventually, in fact, Wells Fargo also used the payments platform, if I remember right. So I worked there for about, I think, nearly between 3.5 to 4 years. I worked there, and it was good. I was in the product marketing side because I was not a techie. So since they need that also, so, and while I was doing there, I tried to pick up some PMI classes. And it was tough because I was single parent and trying to manage with my daughter. But I did. And then so my parents started saying that, why don't you just come back to India? Things are picking up in India. I think it'll be so much more better. It's harder for you there and all that. And my daughter was in that age between 5 and 6. So we thought, if I make the go at that time, I have to do it. Otherwise, it'll be harder for them to adjust when they come back to school, right? So I mean, I came back to India, and came back to Bangalore actually, because the
cost
place
domain
my
solutions, I believe, Lakshmi, right?
software.
So, right,
Yes,
right.
cost domain solutions. Yes, I mean, yes. So, and initially, sometime I stayed with my sister. Then I moved to my own apartment in the same complex, and but it was. I mean, it was actually I mean, pretty bigger change for me after working, for 7.5 years in the US. It was hard for me to sort of adjust to the domestic side, because it was very different. They don't expect, first of all, you have to call them sir, and there's no concept like that in the US. I mean, unless it's someone very high, like so I mean, and I used to call them by name. So these type of changes was new to me, and I was sort of coming back again to this domestic. And luckily, there was a project which came as offshore project, and I know I was made the manager, for the project. And I led a team of 4 people to Cleveland for a project with the CPAs, to do on the tax returns.
Mhm.
So I worked for a couple of years there. And I mean, I struggled with that horrendous traffic in Bangalore. It was not now, it was always there in Bangalore, I think. I mean, just to commute, for about, for about, like, 5-6 miles, kilometers, it used to take me, like, anywhere between an hour and a half, sometimes even 2 hours. It was, and it was hard for me. And I was really looking for a change, what do I do? I mean, so then, I started looking out for opportunities in Vizag. So when I came back for the vacation, I tried to talk to a couple of people, but there was nothing really much as such. I mean, like, it was just picking up IT, and I mean, there was no HSBC, or none of the big companies were there, so I was just sort of wondering. I tried to interview with another company, EY. Yeah, I tried to interview in Bangalore, but that also was very far, so. And then luckily my boss, when I was working in Cyberbills, he reached out saying that they were planning to start a company, and they actually planned, both the founders, that is John Simpson and Dan Easterlin, who were the founders of the company. They actually tried to, I mean, found the company in this thing to outsource work to India.
Right.
So my brother-in-law was a great friend of John Simpson. In fact, they were the two founders for Cyberbills. So he reached out to a brother-in-law asking, he knew that I came back to India. So what is she doing? Will she be willing? Because they know there is some person they know and then they can trust, right? So
Yes.
he reached out to me. That was like God sent, because I was looking. But the only issue was they were looking at Hyderabad. So I convinced them. I said, let's look at Vizag first, because Hyderabad was always already high-tech city. Things were coming up, if not bad as Bangalore, but it was picking up. I thought for us to start a small company, we don't know how much can we thrive there. I said, let's look at Vizag, because I had been looking out, right? I was talking to a few people. So I mean, he came down, and with my brother-in-law, so we went and talked to a few people. Initially, we decided to outsource it, so that if something doesn't work out, it's easier to wrap up, because if you start with your own infrastructure and it doesn't work out, it becomes a problem. So we
True.
outsourced for a couple of years. He agreed, we outsourced for a couple of years. So I helped them a lot. So basically, I was I mean, like, person who really helped out in starting the company, because I had a networking. My father was here, who had a huge networking out here. And then there was this person, Matt Easterlin, who also joined me from the US. And for he stayed here for, I think, about a year. We sort of helped, and he used to look up the nights and I used to do the days. And I mean, initially it was just the day, and then we moved to both shifts, so that we can support the day shift in the US. And we started off with 4 people. And I
Right.
remember
So
so well, August 2007, we are now 3,700 people in India, across, 3 locations. It's always that what my CEO says, John Simpson, he's saying, Lakshmi, what is this monster we created? I mean, it's amazing, because for people who join now, even few years back, it's not a big deal. But for someone like us who were there right from, the start, it's a
right.
big deal for us. Sometimes when we look back, the journey, we had our challenges. I mean, initially, especially, and then the meltdown in 2008. I mean, we couldn't grow. We had actually bought. I mean, we had leased another premises, thinking we were going to grow, but we didn't. So we had to give up. So we had situations like that. It was not, a cakewalk, or I mean, bed of roses. We had, our share of thorns, and our share of challenges with simple things like, the internet service providers. It was hard in the beginning, but yeah, we went through all these things. And yes, and we grew, and we moved out. Once we grew out of that premises, we have 2 premises now in Vizag. We have one in Raipur. And we're looking at Bhilai. We were actually supposed to start before COVID, but because of COVID, we actually stopped the Bhilai premises. We started in Coimbatore last October, since things were going down, but it's second pandemic. But yes, I mean, it was good. We had our fair share of issues, challenges, but I'm so happy that we could reach this this high. And I'm so happy that I did play a part in for the company to come in. Of course, it's of course obviously all teamwork, and the people who all joined with us in the beginning, the first 6 months, they're all now the senior people. And now we just sit back and just sort of listen to them unless there's a big issue. We just happy they just take over. They're just running the pretty much the company. And right now I'm just I mean, when people call me for talks, I go for talks, or I'm talking about women empowerment. I mean, so in my office now, I actually play a role on taking care of women empowerment. Sorry,
Right.
I'm sorry, I missed you.
No, we'll come to those points. I just want to have them placed very briefly. So, very interesting. One also being the importance of being at the right place at the right time. So, it's been what 14 years now. With Patra Corporation.
16 years.
16
16 years.
years, right. One question that while listening to you, one is the secret for success again is very much our own creation, self-manufactured and for our consumption only. and I'm sure the circumstances in our lives are very different from anyone else, and there is no one fit for all formula. What have been your key ingredients for success over all these years? If you could just summarize it quickly.
So like what I told you, I learned a lot when I was working in the US, and I'm always sort of thankful. Initially, I mean, I was very apprehensive, as to how I'm going to go, how my career is going to go. But I learned a lot there, and that confidence made me do well in Bangalore. And then it just sort of continued here. And then what I mean, it's because I was there from the start. Automatically, I mean, you're always sort of sort of everything, because you're there from the beginning, right? I mean, just whether it's the operations or administration, you get used to just being like sort of a know-all person, and then people come to you. And well, initially I was a little bit aggressive. I think because I think it's the role, and I think whatever is the age, and you just want that success. So I mean, I used to be a little aggressive, and micromanager. So it was tough. But then I think my early mentor, I would say, in my personal life, was my brother-in-law Murli Chirala, who actually helped me a lot, because I know I had some errors, and I had to learn something, so he helped me. So I remember so well, when I was in the US once, I used to sort of speak out of my turn sometimes. I mean, I think it's sometimes, I think it's just that you want to express your opinion, and out of enthusiasm, but that's a very big no right? So I mean, once I got bombarded by one of the VPs, and so these are things. So some things I learned the hard way. But the thing is, slowly I learned about listening, not reacting, but responding, and giving a chance to other people, and empathy. Now I'm really high on empathy right now. That's because I think it's the maturity also,
True.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I had the challenges. I learned some things through the hard way. And I did, I mean, well, I did my MBA when I started in Patra. So that definitely helped me, because I mean, you read up. And then one good thing I learned, from my brother-in-law, who was my mentor, is saying, read up a lot of articles. I mean, if you don't have the time for books would be fantastic. But at least read up. That time I still TED Talks. I don't remember if they started. It was more in the, I think, after, I mean, 2010, 12, I think the TED Talks really started. But before that, it was more like, you come across articles. So these, small tips sort of, help me. And then it's just, I mean, when I talk to other people, and, you hear something. But one thing I really miss out is, I didn't really have, even though my brother-in-law was a mentor to me, but I never had any women mentors, or I would have expected. He was only initial mentor, but when I came again, I didn't really have proper mentors, which actually has, I mean, a lot of people now have so much of opportunity, and people realize the need for mentors
Need
now,
to.
and a lot of people are coming forward. But I missed out on those things. So some of the things I had to learn the hard way, but it's okay. I mean, I'm happy now. At least I'm giving back.
Right.
But
So
so these are the things.
I'm sure the relevance of effective mentorship has also elevated more so in the ongoing scenario, Lakshmi. So how are you looking at mentorship, and how are you enabling people around you?
Oh, that's one of my top on my agenda. So I'm actually a member in few associations, CII, the Confederation of Indian Industry, NASCOM, and there's a state industry, IT association, Andhra Pradesh. So I worked in the capacity of, the chairwoman for Indian Women Network, which is a part of CII, for 2 years. And, that is the time we actually started mentorship. This was about a couple of years back. And we started mentorship, and that is basically for women, because this is Indian Women Network. And because obviously the promotion is more of women empowerment for leadership positions. So I mean, and so we sort of picked up mentors, men and women also, because only women mentors would be hard, so, and we started assigning to senior women in different industries, mostly I mean, just not only in the IT/ITs, more in IT/ITs, but even if possible, some of the manufacturing, and other service industry also. And so I've done quite a few. There are people who just came on I mean, by themselves, used to call me and say, can you please mentor us? So I used to talk to them, because I mean, anything, whatever I can, with my experience, I can give them, definitely that's the best thing. And I did a lot of mentoring, obviously, in our office. I mean, we started about a couple of years back. I think in 2019, we started official mentoring thing. But before that, everyone used to just walk into my room and come and, the conversations used to happen. So that's one thing, I mean, I feel happy and proud to say that, women are very happy because I'm there as their MD. In fact, I remember so well in the early interviews, and even later on, some of the senior women say most of the parents are very happy to send their women to work in our office because they know the women, I mean, this woman is a MD in her office. So they just feel, the safety wise, because we have shift system.
Right.
We used to work 3 shifts, so yeah. So that's what, I mean, that is the mentoring part from my side.
What is that one thing that you've missed out in this professional journey, Lakshmi? Any regrets that you hold? Anything that you have, you wish to do and but you've not been able to complete that?
Yeah, like what I told you, well, mentoring is one thing which I just mentioned, all this thing. The other one is, when it comes to my academics, when I did my CA, I feel really, really, even now, sometimes, even after finishing one part in final, just the second part I couldn't complete, so that's always my regret. I mean, yeah, maybe it's just a degree, but still, it's always nice to, when I struggled so much and completed, the 3 parts, I couldn't do the last final. So that's always been there. But,
So it's there on your agenda even now.
yeah, no, I think now it's too late. Yeah, I don't think so. But actually, even that's which is why I did my MBA in HR. Because I was, when I was doing, the administration side, I thought, and I wanted to know. I mean, about people management and all that. I thought it was very important, so I did that. So, which is to some extent is nice, which I couldn't complete there, so I did this. And then after 5 years back, I wanted to do a PhD. I was just thinking, some of my friends were doing. I thought that would be nice to have a degree. Then, after a couple of years, I mean, I was looking into coaching and all. Then I said, what will I get out of PhD? It's just a degree. Or maybe someone might call me a doctor of philosophy. Okay, doctor. But am I going to give anything? And I started coming into the mode of giving back, with all the experience I'm having and all that. So, which is why I thought, more than a PhD, I think coaching is better. So, right now my agenda is coaching, and I just started. I was supposed to do last year, but it didn't happen last year because of all this pandemic. So this year I started. So hopefully I should be completing, in the next, 4 5 months, and then I'm just ready to start giving back, in the office, and also outside, whoever is willing to be coached. I think that's my way of giving back professionally. Hopefully, and especially, I mean, it's not that I'm going to coach only women, even men too, but women definitely is slightly closer to my heart, being a woman, and also because we want that upliftment for them in the leadership positions, because well, men and women are equal out here. I mean, we equally, I mean, born, and this thing. But why that equality not coming into professional life? So that's my take, and I really want to do as much as I can from my side.
Right, Lakshmi. A final question before I draw in Aditya as well in this conversation. Apart from your corporate mandate, anything that is a personal mission that you have set for yourself, anything that you would like to do after you retire, or any long-term personal goals, any one of them.
Definitely, one thing is, I mean, well, this pandemic actually enhanced it a little bit more. I somehow want to try and support, either, I mean, an orphanage, or I mean, if possible, even a village in the education level. I mean, now from our CSR activities, we are doing a lot, and I'm so happy. I've involved myself a lot in that. We've been already doing it, but even on a personal level, I already support now, but not much. But as I finish, and because of time constraint, and also funds also, right? But that's my goal, really, to support, especially children in India, for rural children in India, for education.
Very noble thought, Lakshmi, and I really wish you, if you can go in the direction as well. So my best wishes to you, Aditya. Let's have you in this conversation. There's a common question that I have for both of you. One, what were some of the key challenges for your business last year? How did you manage to overcome them? And moving ahead, what are your key priorities around innovation or strategic IT or digital priorities for 2021?
Who do you want to go for?
Let's start with you, Lakshmi. In that case, I'm sure Aditya
Okay.
will.
Yeah. Yes. So actually, I mean, everyone knew the pandemic, sort of the oncoming pandemic, right? And especially since our head office, corporate office is in the US, and they were slightly affected ahead, and they knew. I mean, India was not already in the horizon for the, I mean, the pandemic. This was like, I think in the month of February, but we knew it was going to happen. So we started taking a little early action, and we knew that things might have to come to like, work from home, and, we might have this curfews and lockdowns, but they were not sure when it's going to happen. So pretty much by end of February, beginning of March, we started I mean, talking about this, and exploring how do we have, because for especially in India, for BPO or for ITS, the working from home scenario is not even there, because you're working in
True.
shifts, right? And we run 3 shifts, and everyone just comes home, they log off, and then they just cut off from their this thing, because it's highly confidential too, right? And we do back office insurance, so it is definitely conscious, not health, but it's commercial. So I mean, but still, what we started doing, we started buying first the computers, because we thought if people really have to work from homes, at least first we need that. So we started buying, and and started I mean, this thing, taking a sessions for the senior people, and what's going to happen, when this is going to hit India and stuff like that. So we started doing all this in March, and by the time it hit us by last week of March, after that one day of thing, Modi just told us that we are just going into lockdown. We were sort of prepared. We actually, the previous week itself, we started shipping the computers to everyone's home. And so I think we covered about 70 to 75%,
Right.
pretty much. So, and then it was not just the challenge was just not only the computers, the Wi-Fi, okay, or the net, because most of the people, everyone has mobiles, they were just doing with mobile data and all that. So we had to run with the service provider. I think mostly we went with Airtel, because we had Tata, but Tata doesn't do home service. And other this thing we picked up. And I mean, it was like crazy in the March month, even before the lockdown started, because there was so much we had to do. And this was all something, new to us. I mean, we never even expected. But I think, that, proactive step we had taken still hit us, but not so bad where, others got hit even worse. I
Was
think.
true.
I mean, I think, I mean, it's hats off to the whole management for us. I mean, I mean, like, so, I mean, April was bad because it is mainly the computers were there, but it took us time to get internet for most of the people. So that, I mean, the senior people already had, because they already had, they used to work from home, but the rest of them, so pretty much we lost April. May, we were up and running by 50 to 60%. By June, we were 90%.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and of course, I mean, about the digital priorities, we anyway knew, because, I mean, our corporate office being in the US, and, I mean, we were always, having this Zoom and all that. But of course, it became even more now because of the pandemic, and people were, it's all contactless now. There have been no more meetings, together meetings coming onto the floor, all those things. So obviously, that was a high priority. But since we were already using, it was not so much as an issue for us. It was easier to just get into those things. I mean, Zoom was across for us in the office. So I mean, and so that's what was being used also. And if by any chance we had issues, there were always phone calls, and sometimes WhatsApp, on this thing, visual WhatsApp and stuff like that. So I think we did not really have that much of a challenge, for the when it came to the digital prioritization. But of course, I think all of us had challenges. I think month of April and May, pretty much.
Most of them, yes, yes, Lakshmi. I guess I know the same set of challenges. The scale would have been different, I'm sure, but the challenges were quite similar. Aditya.
Yeah. So, the challenges, and it brings back memories, right? Because we are again in March, April, May, June, right? So I think what hit us hardest at that time was the whole after sales support, because our customers, they were working from home. And after sales for us used to be call centers where people will go to the office, support our customers, and suddenly, it was lights off everywhere, and people had to support our customers from their home, right? So we had to put in place policies, we had to put in those guidelines to help our customers. So initially it was very challenging, like Lakshmi said, that initially we were caught off guard, and then suddenly you start doing well. And after a couple of months, we actually started opening up our support for other brands also. just in case people needed it, right? So whatever we could do, we started doing that. And like Lakshmi mentioned, a lot of people have done superlative stuff during this time, right? So we had team across all companies, right? I mean, if you look at the kind of innovations people have done and they're still doing, it makes your heart go so glad, right? We are all in so much trouble, but when you see such stuff happening, so some people came up with an idea of Lenovo on wheels, right? That customers are working from home, we'll take a service center there, right? So take a minivan, put all the stuff there, go near the homes apartments, get the laptop, desktop, whatever, fix it and give it back to the home, right? So it was quite a challenging time, but as I said, right, that it is during these times where you see what potential people can bring and
Bring
what
to it.
innovation people can do. I think that
True.
was the major challenge. Of course, supply chain, right? It became unpredictable, right? We are such a supply chain dominant company and suddenly became unpredictable. We had to be smart about managing inventory. We had to be smart about calling the inventory, right? So those are some of the challenges. Continuing forward, I think this IT is becoming even more important. You know, like Lakshmi said, that they could figure out that something was happening and being prepared, right? So that is this stuff for people right now, that we don't know when it will be a lights off situation and what situation will it be going down. And we are trying to do our best to one, adapt ourselves as well as help our customers figure out from our experiences that what best they can do. So yeah, this pandemic has taught us a lot and still teaching us quite a lot now.
I'm sure, and it's always good, Aditya, to create that resilience within the system. I guess most of the business leaders and IT leaders are ensuring that the resiliency that they create is, can meet any kind of crisis in the future. So that's one very key boardroom agenda, if I may say, across verticals, across companies. Right. Thank you, Lakshmi, for sharing your story, valuable views and insights. I stand immensely inspired through this conversation with you. I am sure our viewers will find the same. It was a pleasure interacting with you on Cutting Chai Stories.